Welcome back to the WinonaKicks podcast. Today we are in Cincinnati with the man himself, Phil. If you're not familiar, you're probably familiar with his Piggy Runner, which, I mean, arguably one of the best sneakers to drop this year.
Thank you.
I've seen it everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. But Phil, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. It's great to have you guys in Cincinnati, Ohio. Bit cold outside, a little bit of snow, but we're able to keep it moving, you know.
Hey,
keep
it's warmer. It's warmer than Minnesota, so we're good. A little cold for Seth, though.
Definitely colder than it is in Atlanta, dude. I wasn't expecting the snow, but that, it's nice. We get like one day a year, so this is better. But what are we doing in Cincinnati?
So, you guys are here to celebrate our 10-year anniversary of the Cease and Desist 1990 SB pack that I did with Nike SB in 2015 to kind of celebrate the anniversary of the 1990 World Series, the Cincinnati Reds versus the Oakland A's. And basically, this is my first collab, this is my first story, and now you're going to hear all about it.
I'm excited, dude. And we're actually looking at, what are these to the left, right?
I think we start there. Is what are we looking at?
Well, these are the sample pairs of the original mock-up of the shoe. So these kind of have never really seen the light of day. By the time this is out, they're obviously will be all over the internet to our good friends over at Sneaker Freaker. But this is the first rendition, the first sample from 2015 of the Oakland A SB Bash Bro. This was the first look-see. It's still got the tag on it, sample tag, factory, everything. Basically, I got this in the mail and I was like, what the fuck? This is not what I envisioned. This is not the materials I called out. And I was like a nervous wreck. So this is the first Bash Bro sample. You want to check it out? And then this is the first Nasty Boy. Again, my idea, my vision, I kind of mocked up this red and gray dunk to match the Cincinnati Reds. You got the green and the yellow to match the Oakland A's uniforms, and then the American flag is kind of to represent the flags they wore on their chest during the 1990 World Series. But these were the first samples. And again, this was a time in 2015 when, dunks were quote unquote dead, kind of like what a lot of people are saying in the marketplace right now. And, I stepped up to the plate and I felt like I was going to hit a curveball, a fastball, breaking ball, whatever was thrown at me. I really felt like I was going to hit out of the park telling this story. And this story of the 1990 World Series is special to me, mostly because it's one of the first things I remember watching on TV with my mom. So I was 5. Sat there, watched the World Series. Didn't quite really understand what was happening as far as like the upset the Reds had against the Oakland A's. You guys are probably still too young to know what that means. But here in Cincinnati, I mean, this is Baseball Town, USA.
Yeah.
This is where professional baseball started. In the sneaker world, I go against guys in New York, go against guys in LA. So in my eyes, I go against the Yankees and the Dodgers, but arguably, the Cincinnati Reds went against some of the greatest teams in baseball and won the World Series. And here in Cincinnati, we're really prideful of their legacy. And I wanted to carry a legacy here for myself and some of my staff and really put our city on the map. And in 1990, they did the unthinkable. They swept the Oakland A's and the Bash Bros. Everybody said they had no shot in hell. Which is kind of like what everybody said about me growing up, and even to this day. And when I did this pack, I was constantly told, you're going to strike out. You're never going to make it to first base. And I just felt like I bet on myself, and I believed in myself, and I didn't give up on myself. And I just knew that this pack and this story and why it resonates with me means so much to me. And that team in 1990, again, they kept saying like they're gonna, get smoked. No one wants to watch the Reds. I mean, you got Eric Davis, Chris Sabo, Rob Dibble. Like, we went toe to toe with the Bash Bros, and like we won. And in my eyes, this pack won that year until the next morning. I got a phone call that they got cease and desist.
So let's cliffhanger it there.
Oh, right.
Let's go back. You talked about being an underdog, striking out, just everything. Let's get a little origin story of Phil here. Where does the skate era start for you?
Definitely at the age of 15. I got my first skateboard. Steve-O gave me my first board.
Casual.
Yeah.
So casual. You know.
Well, it was my birthday, and Steve's mom and dad both worked. So on our street, they were kind of considered like upper class. You know, my household, like people have read about Erica. I haven't really spoken too much about my mom or what that house was like. But yeah, we were the dirty white kids, and you know, we were poor, and we had bed bugs and cockroaches and fleas and 40 cats and cat shit everywhere. And my mom was a hoarder, and like I came up in this really bad environment, and we never had like Christmas presents or celebrated birthdays. But 15th birthday, Steve, who was like one of my childhood best friends, we used to joke about that we were born next to each other in the same hospital, even though like he's like 2 months older than me. But he was like, hey man, I want you, you know, it's your birthday, I want you to have my board. I was like, oh, sick. And then he hit me with, it's $20, by the way. So I basically stole $20 from an older sister and bought his board for my birthday. His parents freaked out because even at that time, that board was, you know, $150, $130 at the skate shop. But that's where skateboarding started, and within 6 months, that's what kept me out of my house. That's what kept me out of my rough environment and the things I was going through at that house. And by 16, you know, I was already getting stuff given to me for free because of how fast I picked up skateboarding. I was never like the best trick skater. Like people would go to the park and be like, yo, what's your tricks? How many tricks you got? And like, you know, my arsenal was really low. But by 16, I already had like free shoes, free boards, free gear. And you would have never thought the environment I came from and the upbringing I had that I was who I was. But it's because these guys in skateboarding who became big brothers, they knew and they were looking out for me and they saw themselves in me. And like I could carry the conversation, I could keep up skating with them, and like I just had this style at the skate park that nobody else really had. And then I ran into one of my earliest like 4th grade, 3rd grade best friends, Alex Davis, and I was like, holy crap, dude, where have you been? I moved to Boone County. I go to Boone. We open a skate shop, and I'm like, yo, I'm there. Go there. I start hanging out there and eventually start working there. And yeah, by the end of, you know, that year when I was 16, I pretty much was the store manager. By 17, I fully was their buyer. By 18, it was like I owned the store. They're like, here's the keys, lock up, take it over. You know, you work every day. And I took a lot of pride in that because in the beginning, they were like, you know, it's a family-owned business and we want family members to work here. And you know, they're a black-owned family business skate shop, and I was this token little white kid from Latonia and Covington, and it was kind of weird at first, and it was kind of rough, but Al vouched for me and stood up for me to his older brother and his cousins and his sister, and he's like, nah, this is my guy. Like, we went to elementary school together. Like, he needs to be here, and we were inseparable. We skated every night. We'd skate till like 4 in the morning, and yeah, that's basically where like my skate life started. It was at AAA Skate Shop in Florence, Kentucky, which they opened in '96, and I came on at like 98, 99, 2000, all the way until 2003 when I graduated.
So you're working 18 years old. You're essentially handed the keys to this store. You're working your ass off, showing the bosses that you can do it. Where does that progress from there?
Well, going back a few years, when I first started skating, like I have like 3 groups of like skate crews I skated with, but that first skate crew, like my first thing was like, yo, we need a t-shirt. We need like, and that's where I fell in love of like making tees and making
creative
clothes.
Juices started.
Well, my mom had a sewing machine and she would make clothes for us because like we couldn't afford to buy clothes. So she would make clothes. And I believe that's where I saw at a very, very early age the passion for creating clothes and kind of like she made her own designs, and she had her own labels that say "Made by Marcia" and stuff like that, and they all had flowers on them. So there's another Easter egg with like some of the flowers and stuff. But yeah, I made my team, our crew, like a skate tee, and I was hustling like my clothing brand and working at the skate shop at the same time. So I was meeting like all walks of life, selling this stuff, and yeah, it just kept growing and kept growing and kept growing. And eventually, like, you start finding about like Cincinnati and skating in Cincinnati. So at like 18, I moved downtown. I moved downtown. I was skating with older guys that were, in their upper 20s, early 30s. And I was like, yo, I need a place to live. So you couch surf for a little bit. And then, I went in, got an apartment with the guy, and like, then I found out about Anonymous and, trying to skate for the Anonymous team. And that's where the journey starts at Anonymous, is when AAA decided like enough was enough. Like it was too hard, and like the industry was, turning down. They were like, hey, like we want to focus on our careers. Yeah. Alex had already like moved on to like be a professional skateboarder almost. And I was like, I need to keep working. This is what pays for me to be alive. Yeah. So then I got on at Anonymous Skate Shop, and that was when I was roughly 19, and same thing. I had to start all over again. I was part-time worker, then full-time worker, then store manager, then store buyer, then basically partner. The Curso brothers really kind of looked out for me. And
so how old were you when you got to that?
19,
partner?
like 19, 20. Yeah, I mean,
so it was a quick.
It was, yeah, everything was always quick, because like sales immediately like changed. Because me growing up in skateboarding, it was like you go to the park and like all the old heads would son the little kids, like, you can't skate while we skate. One, you're in the way, and two, you're whack. Like, we don't want you in our photos or in our footage. Like, you got to wait until we're done. I was never like that. I was always like, yo, what's up, homie? Like, skate with me, blah, blah, blah. Because I immediately knew that's who's going to come to the skate shop and buy a board, buy a T-shirt, buy the shoes. And sure shit, that it worked like a charm. Yeah. So AAA, Anonymous, and during that whole era too, I was still trying to be sponsored. Like, I was quote unquote rep flow and stuck in this era of like getting tons of free shoes. I mean, I'm talking boxes, like 15 pairs, and boxes of clothes from LRG or the Hundreds or Elwood Clothing, Maddox. Like, I was getting tons of stuff, but I was also buying a lot of stuff for the store, and it was selling. So early on, I was like telling reps and brand managers, like, hey, if like you give me a box of clothes, I'll give them out to the kids. Like, it'll grow business. Yeah. And then they started hooking me up, and then reps would come through and started hooking me up. And then I was on, not really tour, but I started getting some boards from my friend Frog at Alien Workshop. Tony Heights, who was the team manager of Alien Workshop at the time, who literally built probably the greatest skate team of all time. He was giving me boards, and it was one year at ASR. I was like, yo, Tony, like, you think I'll go AM next? Like, Al's going pro. You're going to announce, like, he's going pro. Yeah. And he straight up was like, nah, man, I don't think you have what it takes. And this is like 2000. I think, when did SB come out? Like 03 or 04? Whatever. You guys are going to roast me about, I don't know the timeline, but a lot of things have happened in my life that timelines are messed up.
So those next 15 years we're going to talk about.
Yeah, right? I'm not Owen Wilson over here. I don't have it all like perfectly mapped out in the timeline. But it was around that time. It was at the first like Nike SB trade show. I think, it was at Padre Stadium, and he was telling me this, and I'm just like, fuck, bro, like, what am I gonna do? And I started like having a panic attack. I started like freaking out. And Tony was like a legit older brother. Like, we didn't call him unks or nothing like that. I've always just said like, yo, that's my older bro, right? Or like, those dudes in skateboarding would always be like, that's my baby bro. Like, look out for baby Phil or little Phil, like whatever it was. And straight up, he picked me up at the airport with Josh Kalis. We went to dinner with Deerdeck and Steve Barra and the dude that started American Apparel. And then he took me to the SB thing, and like I was already getting free shoes, but not like not like a legit team manager thing. It was like a rep hookup. So again, like this whole like rep flow. And I remember them saying like, yeah, Al's it. And I knew physically I couldn't keep up with what he was doing on a skateboard. And then when we went to LA and San Diego for the first time, it was like, whoa, like these dudes are doing 13, 14 foot, you know, stair rails and like steps and, you know, 25, 40 foot gaps. And it's like, yo, this is like full on like stunts.
I could never.
And here in Cincinnati, you know, there really was no skate park. So there was no like training facility.
Yeah.
We were skating in the streets. And like that time when I was growing up, downtown Cincinnati was like no skate zone. Cops were like way against it. Plus like you had like the cops and like crime and riots of like, you know, social injustice. And like, so, you know, we were battling the cops. We were battling dudes in the hood that were hitting us with Huggies and water balloons. And like, it was just crazy time, you know, that would be like probably the best South Park episode ever. But we go to California and everything's super smooth, you know, and the handrails are big and like we're used to skating crusty like ledges and curbs and like super rough spots. So it was like these dudes are flipping in, flipping out of tricks. And I'm like, I got a 180 or a half cab or
Me.
I'll go for a kickflip over this gap. And, you know, even Al was like, yo, I got to step this up. Like, I got to do everything nollie now. I got to, like, flip into stuff. And he definitely had, like, way buttery style. And, I had my 10 tricks that I had on lock, but they were pretty much like, you know, this is it. Like, this is the level you got to be at as an athlete. And it, like, right then and there, skateboarding changed from art and, like, skateboarding to me to like professional athlete. Yeah. And I just knew there was no way I could be a professional athlete. So I had this huge meltdown. And again, Tony Heights, he introduced me to Rob Sissy and he introduced me to Sandy Bodecker, who basically started Nike skateboarding. He also started like soccer for Nike, like stole the whole culture over there in Europe. And he saw what was happening and he literally like put his arm around me and was like, relax, chill out. Look at this room. Look who's in this room. And I'm like, yeah, it's Kalis and fucking Bam and, you know, Eric Costin and, like, Janowski and Ed Salego. And I'm like, yeah, they're pros. He's like, nah, look at the other people. And I'm, like, looking around and I see guys like Chad. And I'm like, who the fuck's that? And he's like, that's our creative director. This is our PLM. This is our sales rep. This is our sales manager. And it was like, well, do they skate? And he's like, they try. Yeah. And, you know, and like Tony was like, yeah, man, like you skated with me. You know, you see like the stuff I can't do. And I'm like, yeah, you got a point. And they're like, so like, relax. Like maybe there's a job for you or a position for you in skateboarding or whatever it is if you're not a professional skateboarder. And that was like the first time anybody in my life had said like, yo, just because like you're expecting to be this in life, it's okay. You know, here's how we can guide you to get somewhere else. Because me growing up, it was like you either got to be a mechanic, an athlete, or join the army. For sure. Or you're going to be a heroin addict or a meth head or, you know, and that's the environment I came from. So seeing that like there was a potential of like having a job outside of like what I was doing and like making a real salary, it was like an eye-opening experience for me. And then they were just like, what's your dream? I was like, well, I've had this clothing line. I've been supporting like my guys with a clothing brand, and like it'd be sick to have skateboarding and like Air Maxes in the same store. Yeah. And that's when Sandy gave me his card and he's like, I'll put you in contact with this guy, Jerry McCree, who's like one of the first Nike sportswear reps. Rob Sissy was also like vouching for me and basically was like, here's my number, call me and like get your shit together and let me know how I can help. And it was like a few years later, I was like, all right, this is the day. Like I'm opening UNheardof. And that's kind of like how UNheardof came about was I sucked at skateboarding.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel like I was probably around the same level as you where I'm like, I can do a few things. That's about it. I could max out at like a 6 stair. Anything over that, nah, I'm good. I'm not gonna break my legs.
I can't relate. I never grew up. I grew up golfing.
Well, I mean, golf culture is kind of the same way. You know, you've got
It's very
five guys
similar.
that make money, and then you've got 100 pros that do it because they love the sport. You know, and that's really no different than skateboarding.
It's a small. Like golf is very mainstream, but to get there is so hard to get to the top. There's so many mini tours that have no money.
Oh yeah.
And my dad chased it mini tours in Florida for 10 years, and it just the level of playing it as an art and versus going to the pro level like you talked about. So how old were you when you opened Unheard of?
I was 23, but
That's young.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
But when I was 23, it was like I was 35.
Yeah.
Just because, like, again, a lot of things happened in my life.
Still,
And,
that's very impressive at
But
23.
the idea definitely started around 20, like probably late 20 to early when I was like 21. And it just took a few years of like really having the confidence to be like, all right, here's what I want to do. And then again, like Anonymous at that time was like a skate shop that was recognized all over the country, even the world. Like dudes in London and South Africa were like, yo, we mess with London. Like the dudes from Palace, you know, knew about Anonymous, and like it just had this recognition. And I was like, dude, I'll never be anonymous. Like Fat Nick is a god. Like he literally like single-handedly started Scribble Jam and Strength Magazine, and he was this like, you know, one of the artsiest, best skateboard photographers. He shot photos for Jason Dill and Rob Dyrdek, and it's like, how am I gonna like beat Anonymous? And then it just, you know, at first he kind of like sunned me or a little brothered me when I came onto Anonymous, and kind of really, you know, I was allowed to make t-shirts, but it took a long time before I was allowed to make the deck graphics, because Anonymous was one of those first stores that started selling decks that, you know, in the industry at that time, it was like brands would get pissed if you sold a shop deck. And for some reason, Anonymous was one of those ones that were like, no, their decks are sick. So they were, you know, Nick was doing collabs with Real, and he did a board with Keith Huffnagel and like, you know, Nate Jones and Dave Cato, and like, so he had all these like iconic things happening, and like, you know, he's best friends with Mike Hill and Joe Castrucci, and these are the dudes that did the graphics and own like Alien Workshop and Habitat.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, it's like, it's kind of like working with the Duffer Brothers or A24 right now in the like film industry. Like this dude is the best.
Yeah.
And finally it was like, all right, you're doing the boards now. But once I started doing boards, they would sell out like the moment we dropped them. So we would do editions of like 50 or 100, and that's where it was like, oh my God, people are like skating the board and buying one to collect. And that's where it like
That's
really,
so cool.
like really opened an eye for me. And that's where I started to really, you know, design merch for Anonymous and for t-shirts for Anonymous. And then, you know, there were spin-off brands here in Cincinnati that I would help influence. I even tried to be a team manager for a brand called Instrument, and I did some stuff with Red Bull where I got paid to skate and hand out Red Bull, and I did a demo with Josh Kalis and Franz of Turnstile up in Columbus. Like just crazy things happened, but it was like little opportunities that would latch on and like really try and like hook my teeth in, because the biggest fear I always had was, what's your resume? What's your degree? Like, where'd you go to school? And I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, like I had no resume. I had no like college education. I got no design background. I got no marketing background. Like I can't even read, you know, and like, or write. And, but I had this like creative mind and this imagination, and that all goes back to my mom. And, you know, I'll tell that story some other day, but once things really took off and I started like really running Anonymous, that's when I started sitting down with like Nike SB and being like, yo, we want to book like 100K in dunks, we want 25K in blazers, like, and kind of really gave them a plan, and started buying like all these different clothing brands and started bringing in all of these like customers that never skated before. Like we would have customers pull up in like G-Wagons and BMWs and Bengals players and Bentleys and stuff, and like they were like, dude, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And it was because we started creating like streetwear, skatewear, sneaker culture, and internet picked up, social media picked up, our website picked up, and we just really focused in on all of that. And that's when I started, once I started selling out of the boards and designing boards and really, in my opinion, dominating the graphics for Anonymous on the decks, I was like, yo, I'm gonna pitch a shoe. And
So what year was that?
2013 was so 2012 is probably when we started the process, but and even like when I was at AAA, I think I joked with the DC rep one time, like, yo, I want to do a DC shoe. And obviously I got laughed at, but when we pitched this, we started it with the first one we started probably late 2012, pitched it fully by 2013, and that's the first date pack, the ice cream pack with Grader's Ice Cream. And I even met with the Grader's family, got their blessing. It's an ice cream company that's been in business since like the 1800s. Probably our most iconic thing of Cincinnati, next to the cheese pony or the three-way. But pitched this whole like first date thing, and like skating up and getting ice cream with your girlfriend, and like you're the dude on the board, and like she's the hot cheerleader who's like cheating on the football player, and then like she's with the skater dude, and then like he boofs it and drops his ice cream like on his grip tape, and he's like, oh fuck, my grip, like my grip is ruined. Man. And like they were like, damn, this is sick, but everybody's telling us we don't want like a gummy bear pack or a Lifesavers pack of shoes. Like they didn't want color, they want black, white, black. They want all brown, all navy. And I was like, yo, you were totally wrong. I was like, you're missing like the Dunk customer, the Nike customer. Yeah. They're like, we got to do what's best for skateboarding. And I would just be like, man, fuck skateboarding. Like, we got to do what's best for the sneaker customer. I was like, this is where we're making money. And like, I kind of got laughed out of the room. But
well, it's funny just to see the progression of, I mean, just how big the Ben and Jerry dunks were, and like you go, the color and the personality and the storytelling, and there's more to it than just a black and white dunk.
Oh, 100%. But you're talking, when did Ben and Jerry's come out? 2023. So that's a 10-year gap.
They're ahead of the time. That's what I'm telling you.
Well, I was gonna say that's like the industry definitely changes every 15 months. But yeah, that was kind of like the first pitch, and there's a couple different versions of those mock-ups that are going to be floating around the internet now. But I got a new rep. Just like there's always a reorg at Nike, and with this particular reorg, my new rep came on, and he was a big advocate for us and was like, "Yo, this is anonymous. Like they're this, and this," and again, I had opened UNheardof. UNheardof took off, and then it was like UNheardof Anonymous. They want to do this pack, and I pitched the whole like 1990 SB, and like people loved it. Sean Baravetto, who worked on the project, who's done some of the best Nike shoes to date, really pushed it through. My rep at the time, Mike Buckman, goes by Bookworm. He pushed it through, and yeah, man, it turned out to be a super dope story. But again, it was just like a really weird time for SB. Definitely as like a shop owner, shop buyer, and I'll say it, a dunk head. A huge fan of the dunks, and that timing was just rough. Dunks were bricking, and that was like when Twitter and Instagram just started, and I remember everybody hashtagging like dunks are dead, and I'd be like hashtag dunks aren't dead, or like dunk with a UN capitalized. So when this pack came out, it was like, holy shit, I made it. Like one stuck.
100%.
Right? And everybody's super hyped about it, and I believe it was the first time someone got two shoes. I could be wrong about that, but I believe it's the first time someone got a high and a low. And I believe it's the first time it was like a collab or shop collab that wasn't a quick strike, it was pre-booked. So that like freaked me out because basically the line was really bad for like 2 years. This was in, and they were like, yo, this is so good, so fire, let's pre-sell it. So then it was like open to buy. So then, you know, quick strikes are like 1,000 pairs, 3,000 pairs. You know, they weren't like crazy like what shoes are today, the minimums. So when I went to pre-book, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be where people buy, you know, 50,000 pairs of shoes, and it's never going to sell. It's going to tank.
Yeah.
So can you explain what a quick buy is for the layperson?
Well, a quick strike isn't like the way Nike does it. A quick strike isn't something you see a year in advance. It's something you see like 30 days. Like, hey, here's the shoe. I mean, that's how it was then. Now, obviously, everything gets leaked. You know, and you know, working with footwear brands now, 9 months is kind of like start to finish. Sometimes 12 months. And then if shit happens in the world, it's 15 months when you start working on something that goes to market. But at that time, we didn't really know when quick strikes were made. It was like, boom, here's an email. Or you didn't even know, like in the beginning, the shoe just showed up in a box. You open it up like, yo, what are these? Yep. But yeah, it was supposed to be a quick strike, which is like this really rare gem of a shoe, which in my opinion, SB really revolutionized like rare shoes, hard to get shoes, quality shoes, and storytelling on shoes. And yeah, they were open to buy. So the shoe originally was supposed to be October release because that's when the World Series was. That's when the World Series was. And the slogan was like Red October. So I was like, eh. But they were delayed, and then they were pushed to December. And I was like, damn, baseball story in December? That was like my first thing. And then my second thing was like, damn, December, so I got to go against LeBron, KD. Sure, there was like a crazy foam posit that came out then.
Jordan 11.
Yeah, there's always like a Jordan Christmas shoe, Jordan 11. And I was like, dude, we're going to get so smoked. And, you know, you're never going to get a second shoe if you don't like have hype and sell out and like people freak out. And I was just like, man, how am I going to do this? And then it was like mid-November, they started showing up on eBay, Tactics, CCS, Dick's Sporting Goods, like $69.99 or on sale $59.99. I'm like, yo, how do these guys already have our shoe before we even have it? And they already have it on sale because at that time, again, dunks were dead. And, you know, they would just put the shoe on sale immediately. So he did some complaining about that, and then finally it was like, all right, I know what's in my back pocket, which are the boxes, and I didn't leak the box until like pretty much the day of the release, or like the week of the release or something like that. But once the boxes came out, it was like game over. It was like everybody got in line. So we made originally 250 Oakland A's boxes, and we made 250 Nasty Boy boxes. And that's how we did the release. First come, first serve, Unheard of. That night was a release party on 12/4/2015. And we smoked them. People went crazy. And then we got the phone call that they got cease and desist.
So was it the box that was like the main thing that led to the cease and desist?
And was that the 6th then? December 6th, the next day?
No, that was 12/5. So that's why we're celebrating the anniversary on 12/5.
Yes.
Because I got the phone call on the internet, like that's when shops were supposed to release them, and the release was canceled, and it hit the internet like the shoes are canceled.
So when did you do the pop-up then?
The release out on Unheard of was the night before. So one night before.
Okay, so it was the next day.
Now it's like, nowadays it's like, I don't know, a week or a few days, whatever. But we got to go the night before. And during my release, my rep came up to me and was like, congratulations, like, you know, your shoes are on Complex, Sneaker News, Hype Beast, Nice Kicks, Kicks on Fire, like Sneaker Freaker, name it. They were there. Yeah. You did it. Your name's all over Nike.com. congratulations, you also got a cease and desist. And I'm like, what the fuck? And no, I knew it was from MLB. I knew it wasn't from like Fleer or Topps, because like at that point those brands were like bankrupt. You know, they would probably call me like, hey, you got any other great ideas for us? Because like people weren't collecting cards. Yeah. But I've heard multiple stories, and there's multiple rumors out there, but this is what I personally was told. I was told Major League Baseball called Nike and was like, what the fuck? You don't have permission to do this. This doesn't look like anything baseball does. Because, again, at that time, baseball wore, you know, black cleats or red cleats. You know, there was no fun in baseball. Different. Just like, you know, no fun in baseball. There was no fun in football. You know what I mean? Like
basketball, that's the whole infamous story with Michael Jordan and his shoes. I mean, it's...
Yeah. So, Major League called Nike, was like, yo, you don't have... And so then basically Nike Baseball called Nike Skateboarding because, you know, it's a campus. And they're like, dude, you guys are in fucking heat. Like, we're in trouble. Cancel this thing now.
You're like, man, we just sold some yesterday. They're ready to go out tomorrow.
Well, you know, yeah. So then the next day, I was getting phone calls from other shop owners like, what the fuck, bro? You're an idiot. Like, literally, and I won't name the shops, but, you know, think big shops, think big cities like New York, Chicago, LA, you know, Florida, Miami, like literally calling me like, yo, you were like our little bro. We let you skate. Like, you're a fucking idiot. We had hundreds of pairs. Like, now we got to send them all back. And I'm like, yo, like, it's not my fault. Like, dude, this is Nike. Like, and dude, it doesn't say Cincinnati Reds. It doesn't say Oakland. It doesn't say Major League Baseball. And everybody's like, oh, you got the cease and desist because of Nasty Boy. And it's like, no, it's just these shoes were leaked weeks before the release. And I believe what happened is right before the release, they got another bash of exposure, and it just ruffled everybody up again. And then it had all our contact information on there. And they're like, oh, this is who's doing it. This is where it's at. And then they just connected the dots. And basically, you know, I was told by Nike, like, release is canceled. Some people sent their pairs back. Some people didn't. There's all these theories and stories of, like, I got a pair at Ross. I got a pair at Burlington Coat Factory, you know. This was the Holy Grail. Like, I tried to go get them from my store, and they wouldn't sell them to me. They said they had to send them back. And, like, again, I was getting phone calls from media, and they're like, talk about this. What happened? Like, how you feel? And I'm like, I don't want to fucking talk about this. Like, holy shit. Like, I just worked, you know, whatever it was, 10 years to get this dream collab. And, dude, this was, in my eyes, like, this is the biggest thing you can do is a SB collab. You know, people talk about, like, all these brands and all these collaborators, and, like, my homies would all at SB be like, yeah, but, like, they never did a dunk. And I would always be like, I did too. So then, like, now, at that time, I was like, damn, like, fuck, what do I do? And I was really embarrassed. I was really upset, and I was depressed, and, like, I bet my whole life on this. And, I was like, how am I ever going to get another opportunity? So a few months go by, and, you know, I get called into a big meeting. I think it was in Chicago or New York City. And, you know, it was like, hey, like, leadership's going to be there, which usually, like, an account like me is never allowed to talk to a sales manager, a district manager, manager of a territory, let alone a merchandiser, a PLM, a creative director, like senior sales director, VP of whatever. Like, no way. You get your rep and that's it. So I was like, hey, you're going to get invited to this, like, leadership meeting, and, like, all these people are going to be there. Like, be you. Don't do nothing stupid, you know. But, you know, he was basically, like, telling me, like, you might have another shot. So that's where we came up with that's where I came up with Grandma's Couch, and that was 2016. And
now explain what you're talking about too.
Well, I basically just made a second presentation and a second story. Again, it was two shoes, but it was a dunk high this time. and a Blazer high, and I pitched Grandma's Couch as a collab with Nike XB. Everybody loved the story. Everybody loved me, and it kind of like started to go into some sampling stages, is what I was told. Boom, another reorg. So now it was a whole new group of people that like you got to start all over with, like building relationships with. And I was told like later down the road, like, hey, like reorg, we'll have to circle back. And then it was like, I got some bad news, like, because your sales meetings are like every 3 or 4 months. And I was like, what's up? He's like, there's a Grandma's Couch Janowski slip. And I'm like, how is it, like, what? And he's like, we don't know what happened. Rumor is new PLM, new merchandisers, new buyers, whatever. They made it for PacSun. It's open to buy for skate shops. We're telling all skate shops not to buy it. Hopefully it doesn't get made. So it's out there, Janowski slip. Not 100,000,000% sure that the story was stolen, but I know 1,000,000% my deck was on PLM's desk and sampling conversations had started. Because throughout the years, senior old reps and PLMs and creative directors and colorists, and they were like, yo, I remember you like pitching Grandma's Couch. I remember like I remember seeing it, like what, you know, like damn, like I can't believe, look at you now, like look at your grandma's shoes now. And it was like, that's what I pitched in 2016. And at that time, you know, I was kind of bummed, but UNheardof was kind of like definitely on fire, and SB was pretty much like, yo, you have a way better shot right now at Nike sportswear. And I'm like, why? And they're like, the focus on skateboarding is just very sport, very like LA, New York, you know, Supreme, FTC. Like, we get it. You're the dunk kid. Like, you guys are selling dunks like crazy, but like, you just probably have a better shot at sportswear. So then I was like, all right, well, let's meet with them. Yeah. So then it was like, started talking to leadership, started talking to managers, started meeting merchandisers, and it was like, damn, like, all right, here we go. This is going to happen. And it was like, all right, in another 3 months, like, well, let's have the conversation again. And then 3 months come up, and I made, well, let's have the conversation next year. So then finally by like 2019, I believe it was 2019, I get a call on a Friday night from my sales rep at the time, like, hey, like, if you could do a sportswear shoe, what would you do? And I just started rifling off. He's like, whoa, put this in like writing and send me an email. He's like, do you think you can make a mock-up? And I was like, yeah. Like, and he's like, cool, I need it Monday morning. I was like, holy shit. So I literally worked all weekend downloading images from eBay and like redrawing them. I was paying like friends to help me because like my ADHD and attention, like it just, like my dyslexia was like crushing me, but I had everything here and I started everything, but I just couldn't finish, and I couldn't get it done. I had so much pressure, so I was asking for help. So Fat Nick helped me, my friend Aaron Hoover helped me, and you know, that we came up with this whole, you know, NSW bridge Piggy shoe. That's really all I want to say about it. Maybe one day I'll bring that up, but it was like NSW was like, hey, what kind of shoe do you want to tell, or what kind of story? And I basically turned this in, and literally I was told, you had the best presentation we've ever seen. You had this, you had that. And I'm like, cool. When are we going to do this shoe? And they're like, we're going to talk about it. If you could do it, how many pairs? And I was like, I don't know. You tell me, like 1,000? He's like, oh, dude, all day, 10,000. And I'm like, whoa. I was like, where am I going to put 10,000 shoes? Yeah. He's like, dude, it's Nike, dog. Like, and you know, it was like a Air Max 98 and an Air Max 1 and a 90, like hybrid. And like, I had a shoe called the Skyline in the works. And like, the shit was fire, hands down. And I was like, damn, here we go. Like, this is really it. And then they had a reorg again. And I had a lot of great people at NSW that really believed in me. And, you know, they spent a lot of focus on Chicago. And, you know, I was fighting for Cincinnati. And they had this reorg. And then, boom, COVID hit. And it was kind of like quiet.
Yeah.
And the whole world changed. And, you know, I still got great friends over at Nike. There's guys that have been there a long time and young guys that are there now that I interact with all the time. And, you know, skateboarding is always going to be special in my heart. And I'm always going to be known as a dunk head or a dunk collector or whatever. But in my world, in my eyes, like, yeah, I am a dunk head. Like, I love the dunks. And I think this is hands down one of the best shoes ever made. And aside from my whole like Adidas relationship and my stories that I have about Adidas, like they're all organic too. But you know, things started at Adidas. Then, you know, I started pitching ideas to Nike. And when he opened up UNheardof, I pitched Danny Kinley, who designed the Booze Knits. I was like, yo, I want to do a collab on an Adidas shoe. Actually, Percy, you can cut all this, right?
No, I mean, whatever.
Hey, Percy, unlock that case and give me the I'll do this tonight for the first time. Give me that Superstar.
Oh, yeah, that one's sick.
Yeah, no, that's not. I've never even posted this shoe.
Really? Because I thought maybe I just completely missed it or something. Back to dunks, though. Do you have like a retro, whatever, dunk that really you remember being the one that made you fall in love with the silhouette? Or one that is your favorite outside of, you know, the ones that you've gotten a chance to create?
No, I mean, the Nasty Boy's not my favorite dunk.
Yeah.
I would say my favorite SB is probably the Futura dunk, just based on that was the gift that Nike SB gave me, I believe, at that first. Yeah, so at ASR.
That's a good one.
So at ASR, I'm pretty sure it was at the one, and yeah, they were giving out Dunkles, and like, he was there, Futura was there. I didn't talk to him, but they were giving out Dunkles as like presents, and like I literally was with Ryan G, and that was like the first that's the first time I seen somebody like put a shoe down, take a picture, and post it on eBay, and he sold it for $1,000 like right in front of us. And that's the dude that shot photos of like Bam and Mike Maldonado, and
wow.
I was just like, holy shit, this is sick. And but I kept everything. I kept the DVD. I kept I should have brought them, but I kept like the little wristbands and the ticket. They mailed you a ticket in the mail as an invitation to like get on the boat. But the Dunkle was like the gift that they gave you. They gave you little matches. They gave you the first Nike SB video that was a DVD, but it didn't like come out.
Okay, I was like, what was the name of that one?
I forget what it's called, but it wasn't the Nike skateboarding film that later came out that everybody.
I remember that.
You know, this was before that. So it was like a promo video. But I have all that stuff still, and it's one of the few things that I've kept from like my original collection. Mm-hmm. Then my other like favorite SB of all time is the Mr. Sabotage Dunk Low. Specifically, and like Sabotage is my boy now. Like me and Mark, we talk all the time on Instagram. We did a Nasty Boy collab during COVID where he did the camo print on the swoosh, and we raffled it off for over $40,000. And we bought meals for healthcare workers during COVID here in Cincinnati, because Children's Hospital was like leading the world with the vaccine for kids. And I always try and do stuff for like kids. So yeah, we did that. But the Sabotage dunk was like the second SB party I got invited to. And I remember the rep like literally being like, oh shit, Nick put his size down, not your size. Oh, and I'm like, Nick, what the fuck? Like, you said I get the dunks. He's like, you see what they're going for on eBay? And literally did the Ryan G thing. Like, set them down, took the pictures. I'm like, Nick, I would never have sold those. Yeah. So, like, the Sabotage Dunk Low is the one that, like, I, like, literally, and they handed out, like, 50 pairs. And it was, like, everybody's getting them. And then it was like, oh, shit, Phil, like, we don't have a 9. Sorry. We have an 11 for Nick. And I'm like, no, like, what the fuck? So the Sabotage got away from me. So those are my, like, probably my two favorite SBs of all time. But other than Sabotage, SB pretty much sent me every dunk ever, except for Supremes. But I didn't want Supremes. I was always, like, the guy that was like, I'm not wearing a Supreme hat. Yeah. And it's not that, like, I don't fuck with Supreme, and I got no beef with them, and like I think what they do is incredible, but they're the Yankees, you know, they're New York City, and you know, I'm Charlie Hustle over here, so I'm always going to rep Cincinnati, and I just, never had their shoes. But
Respect.
they crush it. And but besides like Supreme shoes, like I've literally had every dunk twice, maybe even 3 times. And things happen in your life, things change. Again, I grew up super poor, and like I've had to lose my collection a few times. So I do got a handful of shoes left from my collection.
Can you name like one crazy pair that you still got?
The Uncle, that's definitely one. The Homers, that's one. I got a pair of Jedis still. That's kind of about it. I got a Para, friends and family Para still, that was given to me from a good friend, Joey. Thank you. But that's roughly about it. I do have a pair of Oaklands, and I finally have a pair of Nasty Boys in my size. Because like when I skated, I was a size 8. When I officially retired from skateboarding, I went from an 8 to a 9 immediately. Like my foot just grew.
Dang.
Weird, I know. But I didn't have a pair of Nasty Boys for like 3 years that I could wear. And then it kind of became like a thing in Cincinnati, and people started knowing about it. So then people would be like, I'll sell you mine, 400, sell you mine, 500. And I'd be like, man, fuck you. I'm not buying my shoe back. But then like, we started getting like cool Yeezys in or foams or whatever. And it's like, all right, I'll trade you. So I eventually got my pair in my size that I could actually wear. But yeah, man. Those are my dunks.
What do we have below us here?
So again, like just like I was saying about how I always pitched, when Unheard of opened, I met Danny Kinley, who pretty much invented the Dennis Busenitz shoe for Adidas skateboarding. And I was like, yo, we're opening Unheard of. It's like elevated skate, fashion, streetwear, whatever people want to call it. I just called it, yo, this is my store and this is my lifestyle and this is my vision of what I think is cool in the marketplace. I was like, I want an Adidas shoe. He's like, for sure, let's do it. And Adidas skateboarding at that time was nowhere near, what SB was, or Vans, or even Lakai or Soltech, like DC, like they were nowhere near in that. So I was like, yo, I want to do this. I want to do this shoe. And he's like, what do you have in mind? I was like, I want to do a pro model. A kid I grew up with skated in pro models every day, Justin Wright. And then this other dude who was like super good at skateboarding growing up with us, Chris Anderson. They always wore all white pro models. And I've always just loved baby blue and light blue. I think it's because it was like a sweatshirt that I wore that was like the first thing I ever bought from Gap with my first paycheck that my sister stole my sweatshirt. So I made the shoe kind of like in those colors, and this was our logo. So at that time, laser engraving was big. I think like the Laser 4s. There was just all kinds of like cool, like laser was like new, kind of like Foam Runner now or something, like Crocs, like foam is just in. Like at that time, laser engraving was in. So I told Danny, is like, let's just laser engrave our logo. So this was Unheard of's like first logo, and me and Fat Nick made it. So I was super prideful because it, when we started Unheard of, and like the Nasty Boy, like the professional baseball thing is known in Cincinnati, but what's not known is like the Cincinnati Royals, which is now the Sacramento Kings. But that was our like basketball team that Oscar Robinson played for. And, we have a picture of him on our window outside, but that's why we put the crown on the UN and like put the city skyline in the crown, because like Cincinnati's known as the Queen City, but we were the kings of Cincinnati because we opened up downtown Cincinnati first before anybody believed in the city during a time when everybody, hated Cincinnati, and like it was all about suburbs, or you need to be in Kenwood or Tri-County. And I was like, nah, downtown, the culture here is sick. Like, I've been downtown since I was 18. And so the conversation started with 500 pairs, then it was 200 pairs. Then it was, hey man, I can make you 100 pairs. And it was like, it's looking like it's going to be 50 pairs. And then it was like 2 weeks before the release, he's like, hey man, I got you a pair.
Oh my
God. This is a one-of-one sample that I've really
saw the sample.
It's got a sample, and it was built. It doesn't have a born date.
I was looking for that.
But this is definitely 2007 when this was created.
Wow.
Because we opened in 2008. And we took our sweet time opening the store. But
Wow.
I've never posted it. I've never whatever. I've always left it in the case just to like, I don't know, see what people say about it.
You know, it's cool because it's just, you never know what door is going to open. And you have a vibrant history with Adidas now over the last 4 to 5 years. So it's cool. It's cool to see.
No, it's a blessing for sure, but I can't sugarcoat it. It's a ton of hard work. Like
I know.
Yeah.
I have an amazing team that, go to bat for me and step up for me when I need them to, so I can be creative. I can continue to make my art and like grow the umbrella of like working on these shoes and doing art projects. I mean, we've done stuff with like James Marshall and Don Pendleton and CF Payne, and these are guys that do like museum galleries around the world and like are known as like historical artists, and like I get to work with them. But I had to sit them down and be like, hey, I'm this crazy dude, crazy idea, just trust me, let's make this skateboard. And then it was like, boom, it sells out, and they're like, damn, that's sick. So it's been a blessing, but it's a shit ton of hard work, and it's a shit ton of failing. Like technically, this pack, the Nasty Boy and the Oakland A's, is a failure. And this superstar pro model mid, this is a perfect example of a failed opportunity. But now here we are, and you see all the shoes that we've created, and we're literally just getting started. But I'm super happy to have you guys in Cincinnati. I'm super stoked to put the shoes on display. The whole idea of the art show is to really talk about the art of the cease and desist. If you look at like card collecting now and how it's back, and like, I really tapped into the original card collecting community when we built this project, and we did it at a card shop with card nerds, and like let them freak out about the little kids that like bought the shoes and then ripped the box apart. But like, we're recreating the baseball cards that came in the boxes. I don't have them here. They'll be here tomorrow. Taking the original cards, making them screen prints. Again, when I made my first t-shirt, I showed up to the screen print shop and I was like, hey, I don't know how to do this. I want to make these t-shirts. I can't pay for it. Where's your bathroom? I'll clean it. And the guy taught me how to clean screens. He taught me how to make screens. Then he taught me how to screen print.
Wow.
So screen printing has always been a side job of mine, as like Phil the skateboarder, Phil the shop owner, Phil the whatever. But I worked at a screen printing shop at the same time at during late hours of the night, and that's what Andy Warhol did. He made screen prints and sold screen print art. So that's why we always create screen print art for every release, at least try to pay homage to like my humble beginnings, so I don't so I humble myself and don't forget where I come from, because it's a long process to make a screen print, and it's a long process to design a shoe, produce it, put it in the marketplace, watch it sell out, and then see the exposure on social media. And then what's even harder is to do it all over again.
That's the thing.
And then again, and then again.
You're done, and then the next one, and then the next one. It's crazy.
It's just cool to, it's 10-year anniversary. It's just cool to acknowledge the pun intended strikeout, because it's everyone's talking about the biggest and the best shoes and the stuff that's happening, and it's really cool to, just to talk about all the hard work that you put in behind the scenes of the turnovers and the meetings and the multiple sample rounds and the card collecting, when card collecting and SBs were not what they are currently. Cards are crazy now, but at the time it wasn't. So it's really cool just to be a part of this. So we appreciate it. We're very, very happy we could have you on and talk about it. It's a cool story that I think a lot of people are going to soon know about.
Thank you. I
That's the
appreciate
thing.
it.
Like, dude, I'm sure you gained so many new fans over the past 3-4 years just from your different projects.
Nah, they're
especially
friends.
with
New
Adidas.
friends, not fans. I
Yeah,
don't like
well,
that
for
word.
sure.
New friends.
New friends through, past projects that have really blown up, especially on social media, and majority of them, I'm sure, have no idea that you even had an opportunity to do not one,
There's
but two
another
dunks.
14 years of history behind
Yeah.
it.
Well, that's also why, you know, we're called Unheard of, because
Exactly.
no one heard of me.
Hey, that's so
So-
true. That's amazing, dude. Well, Phil, dude, thank you so much for having us out and then just giving us the opportunity to chat with
Absolutely.
you, man.
Appreciate it.
We're looking forward to tomorrow.
Awesome. See you guys there.
Sweet.
Awesome. Radical.
Chad, one more time. We're going to do this all over one more time.
We got to reset the cameras.